Welcome back to Craftsman David. In my previous video, I introduced the model train project of taking it from the box and putting it up on the ceiling of a room. Now I'm going to show you how I made all these pieces.
So now we're back out in the shop and I've got to make a whole bunch of these brackets, so I'm going to start with this curved piece. I drew that up in CAD, so I printed out a full-size printout. After I cut it out, I end up with this. Now this piece is going to be the template that I use for marking out all 18 of them. So these are the boards I'm going to use to cut out the bracket pieces, and I want the grain to go in the direction of my force vector. So instead of cutting it out like this and tracing it, I actually want it to be like this. That way the length of the grain helps support the shelf and I'll have less of a tendency to crack the bracket off. And to do this, I'm just going to create a zigzag pattern going all the way down. I'll cut this out on the miter saw, and each zig and zag is going to be another bracket. And then I'll just trace it out.
The bandsaw makes quick work of cutting out all the pieces. You'll see me use this process a lot, where I start at the bandsaw and then finish up at the belt sander. Up next, I'm starting on the base of the brackets. First, I'm ripping all the raw stock to width. Then I'll set up a stop block and cut all my pieces to length. After that, they get holes drilled in them to mount to the wall. I'm using dowels to join the bracket pieces together. So here I've made myself a wooden template that I can use to drill out each base piece.
To make matching holes in the bracket compared to its base, I'm going to use this doweling jig. It's like a parallelogram mechanism, so I can put it on there and I can just hold it and drill it out.
I will round over and then sand all the pieces before I start assembly. Here goes assembly. You'll see me hammer in the dowels, and then at the end I'm going to drill and install a screw to hold the pieces in place. This prevents me from needing to clamp them.
Now the brackets are all glued up, they're done. Let's move on to the shelf that holds the track. For the corners of the room, I need to bring the shelf around at the same radius as the track. So to do that, I've come up with a 3 miter joint system. I simply cut these joints at the miter saw as shown here.
Notice that the board gets flipped with each cut to minimize waste.
Now, to hold these together, I've installed pocket holes, and I'm going to glue this joint. For these joints, I am using the Craig micro pocket hole system. That way the pocket holes are smaller and it works on this 1/2-inch stock. And finally, if you sand it while your joints are still wet, the sawdust will help fill the gap. So I'm going to sand them right away. Now that the glue is dried on my corners, I want to make them an arced corner. Instead of having 3 flat spots, I want a full curve. To do that, I've made this beam compass. In CAD, when I laid out these trapezoids, it came out to a 16-inch radius. So I've got a sheet of MDF under my workbench. I've already checked that the MDF is nice and square in this corner. So if I set my mitered piece against that, the mitered piece came out to a nice 90 degrees. Draw an arc. Now I can cut that out, but you may be wondering, why does this arc come out inset from the inside edge of this board? Well, if you remember, I'm making the shelf out of 1x6s, which are 5.5 inches wide. This is a cutoff. So if I have this coming right here, because this is a mitered edge, it's longer than 5.5 inches. My 16-inch radius will bring it back even with the shelf running around the rest of the room.
Once again, I am relying on my bandsaw, followed by the belt sander to shape the curve. After that, I'm going to ease over the inside edge on the router table. Here on this corner, you can see that I have a wood screw that's sticking through the bottom of this miter joint. On a true blue woodworking project, the right thing to do is to remake this piece or pull that screw out and then wood fill this. Because this is going in a room and it's not
like something people are going to handle. I'm going to leave it there and hope that the stain kind of blends it away. Meanwhile, I've been sanding it over so that it flattens it out and there's no actual sharp piece. And likewise here on the top side where the screws are, I'm just using the sander to sand flat these screw heads so that the train track will sit flat, because otherwise they do protrude slightly.
Where the train goes over a doorway, I'm going to need brackets that hang down from the ceiling.
I'll make ceiling brackets from this honkin' piece of wood. Here I'm set up at my ornamental milling machine to make a hook at the end of this board. That way when I have the shelf, it'll catch it just like that. And to sweep the arc, I'm going to just use a round can, go tangential to the center line until I meet my mark on the top, and then I'll just sweep the curve up. Repeat on the other side. Just like that.
A little bit more sawing at the bandsaw, shaping at the belt sander, and drilling mounting holes. And then these brackets are ready for assembly. Here I have a simple fixture set up where I can use screws to hold my brackets together so that I don't need clamps. The final obstacle in the room I need to deal with is the window. For this I made hook-shaped brackets where 2 of the screws go above the window and 2 of them mount to the window frame. These brackets are a pretty simple glue-up. Just make blocks, glue them on, and brad nail them. Done.
And those blocks have set up for over an hour, so they should be good. As long as I don't drop them. So one problem I have mounting these to the window, other than needing the spacer block, is that the window is not parallel to the wall. So when I put the bracket on it, it doesn't come out at 90 degrees. To fix that, I've marked out on here with a level, actually in the room with a level, the angle that I need to cope these at to correct for the window not being parallel. So I've got my sliding T-bevel set. Now I'm going to take that to the disc sander.
Now for the easiest part of all, making the straight runs. Just take a board, plane it down to 1/2 inch, and then round over the inside edge. And of course, don't forget to sand everything smooth.
In order to efficiently put finish on all the pieces, I have these spike plates. They're just a scrap board that I tap some brad nails into, and they hold the pieces up above the table. That way I can put finish on all sides of them and it'll dry at the same time. I'm also using the spiked board method to support these corner pieces. And here's a little tip for the corner brackets. Instead of putting these on spike plates, I have these holes which were drilled for a number 8 screw. If I put a larger screw in, it doesn't go through, but it just barely catches. Now after tightening those up a little, it has stilts, and it'll sit above the table. And of course it's important to make sure they're free of dust. Use an air compressor and do it outside. Easy. And here are all the parts with 1 coat of golden oak Wacko Danish oil. I've never used the Danish oil before, but it seems like just 1 coat's going to do it. So that's awesome. In the next episode, I'm going to show you how I made this bridge that the train is sitting on. Till next time, thanks for watching.